psychology degree and I can't find a job in the marketplace. I have an economics degree, but I really don't even like any of the jobs that an economics degree allows you to work. I graduated with an industrial engineering degree, but I simply don't like what jobs come with an industrial engineering degree. I have a job that doesn't even require the college degree that I got. As a note, according to the Federal Reserve, 41% of recent college graduates work in jobs not requiring a degree. And according to the Strata Institute, 45% of college graduates still don't hold a job that requires a 4-year degree. Well, I can tell you many other sob stories having lived in that college town. The real question is how did these college students get here? So the goal of this presentation is to diminish the likelihood of this happening to you, the high school students, or to you, the parents of the high school students. More specifically, the purpose of this presentation is to increase the likelihood that you choose a career that utilizes your passions and interests, increases human flourishing, and builds long-term financial security with an in-demand skill and no student debt. So before we continue, I want to set forth 2 ground rules. This presentation is based on general principles, not absolute rules. That is, the advice set forth is normally successful but not absolutely guaranteed. Second, the presentation is also a strategy. Not the only strategy, not the best strategy, but it is a proven strategy. This proven strategy that we will discuss entails 3 simple steps. Know who you are, understand the job market, and select an optimal path. So we'll start right here with, that's the proven strategy, and then we're going to, if it will let me go. Yes, there we are. Know who you are. If one wants to avoid the type of problems discussed earlier, it is imperative that you know who you are, what you are good at, and what you want to do with your life. Yet the biggest problem facing high school graduates is they're not prepared to make decisions about their future. They are not prepared to decide what they want to be when they grow up. According to a survey of 500 students conducted by U-Science, 3/4, I want you to listen to this, 3/4 of high school grads say they do not feel prepared to make important choices about their future. The question is whose fault is that? Worse, the survey found that 30% of those students were not following any planned educational or career path. So what are the primary reasons high school students are not prepared to make choices about their future? First, parents and students spend too little time identifying natural aptitudes and talents. High school students spend so much time focused on a college search, but very little time on what's the best career for the student. High school parents have allowed high school to become a means to an end of getting their students into college instead of what it's supposed to be. High school is supposed to be a period of rapid development, discovery, learning, and as Leonard and I talked about, experimentation. That's what high school is supposed to be. Parents and students, well, we are really going the wrong direction here. Here we go. Yes. Parents and students do not recognize that young people have differing levels of career readiness. That's the second reason why high school students aren't prepared to move into the future. The concept of differing levels of career readiness is best explained by Jeffrey Salingo in his book, There is Life After College. According to a survey that was conducted across the country for his book, 20-somethings transition into adulthood and into higher education in one of three ways. They're sprinters, wanderers, or stragglers. Sprinters, which is 35% of those surveyed, jump right into their career after college and are on path to a successful launch after completing additional education. Most often, sprinters are high school students who head directly to college into a career path. They're focused, they're prepared, they often have a career plan. And as a result, they sprint into adulthood, often graduating on time and moving quickly into stable careers. Wanderers, which is about 32%, take their time, which is about half of their 20s, to get a start in a career. They move through their post-high school years without a clear path or direction. They're often unsure about college, unsure about careers. They may jump between jobs or schools or degree programs. And half of the wanderers weren't sure of their major when they entered college. After graduation, only 1 in 5 of wanderers were employed in the field of their study, as compared to 97% of the sprinters. Stragglers are 33% of the young adults surveyed. They press pause and spend all of their 20s trying to get their start. They often change majors, pause their education, and by their mid-20s, 99% of stragglers have no college degree. And as a result, they transition to adulthood is slower. So for purposes of this presentation, I'm going to borrow this framework and say it applies to high school students. I don't have a survey to say what percentage you are, but I know high school students fall into all those categories. Some of you are stragglers, some of you are wanderers, and some of you are sprinters. And we as parents should recognize that we didn't raise 3 sprinters and have all 3 of our kids ready to sprint into college. You may even have 3 wanderers who will spend all their 20s trying to decide what they want to be when they grow up. But that's okay, because our children are wired differently. So we're going to apply the fact that there are 3 different types of high school students going in. And this will describe how the students approach transition from high school to college into their careers. So here's the question. Are you a sprinter, a wanderer, or a straggler? And how can you know? Allow me to make 4 suggestions on making the determination of whether or not you're a sprinter, a wanderer, or a straggler. Number 1, be realistic. Some of you know what career you've had for years. I told you the story last night of my daughter at age 12. I want to be a nurse. 18, she's a nursing school. 22, she's an RN. 7 years later, she's a nurse practitioner. Boom. Then I had child number 6, who we just decided within the last year, decided at age 32, 33, I know what I want to be. And I've had both extremes, okay? But this is what you want to do. Be realistic. Wanderers may take 2, 3, 4 years to decide what they want to be coming out of high school. Stragglers may take 5 to 10 years. Know this, there is no shame in not being a sprinter. Taking several years to figure out what one wants to be is not a problem as long as that person continues to experiment and explore and invest in their skill sets. Because what will happen is when wanderers and stragglers decide what they want to be, guess what they become? Sprinters. Okay? Number 2, which of the 3 are you? Slow down the conveyor belt from high school to college. Too many students follow the herd, rush off to college because there's nothing else to do, and subsequently, about 2/3 of the students become wanderers and stragglers. More students should consider deferring their college admission for a year or more to brush up on their academics, experiment with what interests them, and to consider what career options are out there. Slowing down the career conveyor belt from high school to college also diminishes the likelihood that they'll ever switch degree programs in college, because once they decide what they want to be, they stay on track. And according to the U.S. Department of Education, 1/3 of all college students change their minds at least once, with 10% changing twice. The third way to make this determination of what you are is to experience life. Parents, you're going to need to help your children experience life. How do you do this? Do you think you might be interested in healthcare? Well, go get a part-time job at a hospital, a doctor's office, a senior care facility, or an urgent care clinic. See what people in healthcare do. Are you interested in construction? Go get a part-time job being a gopher by watching what happens out on a construction site. Whether it's a framing crew, a masonry crew, a roofing company, you'll get an idea of what you like and don't like, whether you want to work those kind of hours and that kind of work. Let them experience that. Are you interested in event planning? Go work with a wedding venue, an event planning firm, or go work at a conference center and understand what it looks like to try and get everyone ready for an event, and then to see what it takes to keep the event operating, and then what it takes to tear that event down. Let your kids experience what that looks like if they think they want to go into event planning. Digital media. You interested in digital media? Get a part-time job with a web developer, a digital consulting firm, or a managed service provider. Are you interested in supply chain logistics? Supply chain, there's a lot of supply chain and logistics around. Well, go work in a distribution center, a delivery center, or a food service company. But in addition to seeking out part-time jobs in your area of interest, one should consider a gap year to fully do this. Here in high school, you're kind of doing a part-time job, and I think I might want to go into supply chain logistics. Don't go straight to college. Go to work at a FedEx facility for a year and experience what it looks like, because that additional full-time job will allow you to see what you like in there, what you don't like, and whether it is or is not a career option. By experimenting in these gap years, it allows you to acquire the skill and attributes that employers are looking for, and it gives you a better idea of understanding what's in that industry. Number 4, complete assessments. There's so many options here, but many of you need to make sure that your children are completing career assessments to find out what their interests, skills, and passions, how that aligns to jobs in the marketplace. Tools like Strong Interest Inventory, which links interests to jobs. The Clifton Strengths identifies your innate talents and how to apply them. Myers-Briggs, the MBTI, preferences and how you perceive the world. The O-Net Interest Profiler identifies work-related interests and links them to occupation in their database. These type of assessments help one discover hidden interests, identify strengths, understand work style, and broader career options. And most of them cost you, they're either free or $19. A third reason why high school students are ill-prepared to make some decisions is that K through 12 schools, private, public, and home, fail to connect student interests and academic courses to real-world career options. First, high school students do not understand how their natural aptitudes and talents translate into a career fit. Second, high school students cannot connect academic lessons with careers, because this is math, right? This is history. This is just a biology class, but no one's explaining how that connects to a career. Finally, high school students lack the skills really needed in the real world. While providing some important social skills, K through 12 does not prepare high school students for real-world skills like interviewing, how to prepare taxes, investing in 401k plans, saving for a home, not borrowing on credit cards. How do you maintain a good credit account? Your kids should have some basic knowledge of this as they come out of high school. And that puts the burden on us as parents because these are simply real-world skills that are not being taught. So now that you know who you are, let's understand the job market your high school students are entering. Today's job market is the most dynamic market in U.S. history. The resurrection of socialism here in the United States, the redefinition of the two political parties, the influence of families having fewer children, the power of artificial intelligence, and the transformational impact all of that's having on the job market, hereafter we'll call it the market, is what's impacting this. So to understand the market, we're going to ask 3 questions. What is the market value? What does the market not value? And how likely will artificial intelligence affect the market? What does the market value? Okay? Hands-on experience. The market craves hands-on experience. It's the most thorough preparation for the challenges, complexity, and the ambiguity of the work world from high school to college and afterwards. And students spend too much time on what? What do they focus on? Keep going. No. While they're in school, they're concentrating on what? Grades. It's all about grades. But the problem is, they don't practice any time on hands-on experience. What do grades prove? Truly, what do grades prove? That you're really good at taking tests. But it doesn't prove that you can do anything. So I want to give you an example of what I talked about, the value of hands-on experience. One spring, I had a lengthy conversation with 2 graduating seniors. First one, 4.0 electrical engineering student. Just sharp as a tack. They reached out to me for career guidance. Despite stellar grades, a capstone project that was great, couldn't find a job offer. So upon exploration, I learned that the person had had no hands-on experience, had done no part-time jobs, had earned no certifications in the engineering field, had done nothing for 4 years of college other than get straight A's. As expected, he became one of the many graduates who took a job out of college that did not require a degree that he graduated with. The second student, same semester, several weeks apart, senior hospitality major. Hospitality, restaurant, hotel, so forth. 3.4 GPA, solid GPA, nothing to be proud, super excited about. I asked her how her job search was going. She said, it's kind of somewhat difficult. So I was expecting, okay, I want to hear what's going on. Her struggle was trying to decide between 3 excellent job offers. That was her struggle. So upon exploration, I wanted to find out how in the world did this happen? I learned that starting her freshman year, she had joined the College of Agriculture's event planning team and had been working part-time on event planning for the university, the School of Architecture specifically, for 4 years. 3 different tours of duty with wedding venues during her summer. And she was hired from the university not because of her degree, not because of her GPA, but because of what? Experience, skills. We spend too little time recognizing that the market craves hand-on experience. And any of you who own a business, you will hire a person with the experience, hands-on experience in your area before you'll ever hire someone who has a 4.0 from college, because you need someone who you know already knows how to do this work. What can we do? The market values hands-on experience. Get it. Help your kids get it. Number 2, they value certifications. 81% of global hiring managers say credentials make it easier to tell if a candidate truly has the skills the employer, is looking for. In other words, a college degree might open the door for a job interview, but employers are trusting it less and less because it's not a real indicator of job readiness. Allow me to give you an example of the certifications. At the Texas A&M University system, they had a security operations center. The security operations center monitored the traffic of 22 state agencies. So we had billions of pieces coming across, and the students in the security operations center were watching this real time to see what needed to, when the alerts went off, which we had to be concerned about. There were 5 graduates one May. All 5 had worked 2 to 3 years in that part-time student operations center. All 3 had come away with industry-recognized certifications. And all 5 had gotten contract offers before they graduated with 3-letter agencies and defense contractors as level 2 analysts, which means they said, we know you only work part-time for 2 or 3 years, but we're going to assume that you have had 2 years experience. We'll hire you as a level 2 analyst. That was what they were done. But here's the interesting thing. Because those employers valued the combination of hands-on experience and certification, they overlooked the students' degrees. Of the 5 candidates, the one hired and sought out by everyone was a 3.2 GPA English major. What were they hired on? They were not hired because of their degree, their grades. They were hired because they had hands-on experience, certifications, and they were able to assess that these people had critical thinking skills that were needed. What does the market value? The market values certifications. Number 3, the market values micro certifications. Okay? A 2024 report from Coursera suggests that students and employers are gravitating towards micro credentials. The survey conducted found that 96% of employers believe micro credentials help a candidate's application, and 85% were more likely to hire a candidate with a micro credential versus one who didn't have it. They also found out that 90% of employers were willing to offer higher starting salaries to those who had credit-bearing micro-credentials. The report stated that most employers believed micro-credentials lowered first-year training costs, enabled hires to come in with a higher proficiency. Thus, employers are beginning to value micro-credentials again over degrees. What's the difference between a certification and a micro-credential? Every one of you high school students can go out there and go to Google, and you can take a 1-week credential that will say, hey, I've got a credential in doing A, B, or C with Google. And then there's 15 of them. But those are micro-credentials. What universities are starting to do to make their graduates more attractive to the workforce is to embed micro-credentials into the curriculum, so the students are graduating with 3, 4, 5 micro-credentials. What does the market value? They value micro-credentials. Number 4, they value the ability to navigate ambiguity. We talked about this a little bit last night. In a November 2024 study conducted by Deloitte, recent graduates cited they were surprised by how different college was from the real world. In particular, it was how unstructured and unpredictable jobs and the workforce can be. Too many graduates want concrete, well-defined tasks as if they're preparing for an exam. This is despite the fact that after college, learning is largely self-directed. And the market needs employees who can cope with the unknown on a daily basis. The market requires employees to possess a broad set of skills to be adaptable, to embrace change, even if it's outside their immediate area of specialization. So how does one prepare for ambiguity? Obtain hands-on experience. Because what does hands-on experience teach you? Is that things are unpredictable. Sometimes you have to make a decision because there's no one to ask the question behind you. You obtain skill badging, micro-credentials, and certificates because that's giving you a broader understanding. And you should look towards, if you do go to college, getting a multidisciplinary degree. Don't get a degree in business. Get a degree in agribusiness, which is going to teach you how to do real business in the real world of agriculture because it's multidisciplinary. If you want to become good at computer programming, make sure you have a minor in something creative because we need creativity desperately in all of this hard sciences. Okay, it values ambiguity, the ability to navigate ambiguity. Number 5, it values soft skills. For decades, the college degree was the strongest signal of job readiness, but not so much today. Because here are the following soft skills that our employers state are missing when they're looking to new students or new employees. Number 1, communication. Graduates often struggle with effective written and verbal communication, and they can't have any ability to speak in public. Well, you're thinking, I don't need my employees all have to speak in public. No, but you might have to speak in the middle of a meeting. You might have to speak in the middle of a team briefing, and you need to be able to learn how to speak clearly, concisely, and confidently. Well, how are you going to do that? You've got to learn how to exercise communication skills. New employees are struggling with collaboration and teamwork. They struggle to work in teams because they've been so used to working on their own. Critical thinking and problem solving is almost absent today. So we need to focus on how do we build critical thinking skills and problem solving skills with our high school students. And to be honest with you, that's not that hard. You just have to get them off of their cell phones and off of the computer playing games of chess or doing problem-solving games where they are forced to expand their problem-solving skills. Adaptability and flexibility is missing. Graduates often struggle, and the workplace is fast, it's dynamic. Another one that new employees are missing is resilience. Graduates often lack resilience or grit. They lack experiences learned from failures and hardships on the job. When you rescue your child all the time, they don't come very resilient. And when you don't put them into a job situation where they get a really crummy job or crummy work hours or crummy tasks, and you just quit. We don't want you to struggle through that. No, let them struggle. Let them learn resilience because that's missing in the marketplace. The marketplace is wanting new employees who can build relationships. And building relationships is typically not done, despite what everyone thinks, on Instagram. It's in TikTok. It's not done there. Building relationships in the workplace requires you being able to look eye to eye, shake someone's hand, read their body language. We need to get our high school students out where they are having to learn how to build relationships, because despite what they want to do, the market needs them to be doing something different. The market craves, and it's missing, creativity. Jeffrey Salingo states that creativity has evolved into a core competency demanded across virtually all professional domains, and it's simply missing. How do we encourage our kids to be creative? I was having a conversation with Leonard, and I said, Leonard, one of the great things about someone who wants to be creative is he likes to invent. I'd say, go, invent, invent, invent. But guess what most inventors are going to do? Fail. The first time, the second time, but they fail forward. I want people who have resilience to handle failure, but who are trying to constantly be creative. So when you have someone who strives to want to be creative, do everything you can to allow them to be creative. We have grandchildren, that a lot of them, because my wife is very artistic, I have 2 daughters that are ridiculously artistic, and I have some grandchildren that are artistic. We let our grandchildren do a lot of artistic things. Why? I want them to practice their creativity. So make arts and crafts available. And for me, who's OCD, it's really kind of hard to accept the fact that the house gets a lot dirtier and the walls get written on. But you know what? I want creativity's demanded in the marketplace. 6, the market values differentiation. To effectively influence people, you have to stand for something, you have to represent something, you have to be something, you have to have a distinct message. You want to stand out. You want to be the brown egg in a carton of white eggs. How does one differentiate themselves? Number 1, had a conversation with Pete and Lily on this. Number 1, be bilingual, be multilingual. Because you immediately move, because you may not think being bilingual is a big deal here in the Valley, in South Texas, because virtually everyone's bilingual. Truck up north, and all of a sudden, being bilingual, and particularly being multilingual, where you can speak even 2 or 3 languages, all of a sudden, employers are going to jump on you because you possess a skill set that almost no one else being considered possesses. And I had the conversation, periodically when you're down at Texas A&M, you have all these aspirational people, and a lot of people want to go into the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI. And they don't realize that to get into the FBI usually requires you to be about 28 or 29 years old, because the FBI doesn't want to hire people straight out of college at all. They want to see some maturity. They want to see all these skills, ability to deal with ambiguity, hands-on certification, ability to communicate. But there's one thing that they will hire you straight out of college: if you were fluent. If you were fluent in Arabic or Mandarin, you're hired about the day after you get out of college. That's a differentiation. All right? Another skill that we've already talked about is to have a multidisciplinary degree. It's really nice to be a lawyer. But if you're a lawyer who's also a CPA, you automatically move to a smaller pool of people. What happens if you get a degree in HR, but you also are a certified licensed counselor? They'll hire you before any HR graduate, because they're going to hire you because you possess multiple disciplines. If you are a construction science major, but you actually have a business minor, they hire you because not only can you manage construction, you can manage the business in the back, because most construction projects usually fail because they don't keep up with the costs and expenses in the projects. Another way to differentiate yourself is to combine a degree with an industry-recognized certification. We talked about one of those. I don't care what degree you have, but you have an industry-recognized cybersecurity certification, they're hiring you, okay? But let me give you I talked to the provost at Tarleton State University. She was trying to figure out how to really interweave the new world into her degree programs. I said, I got a real simple one for you. I want every one of your psychology majors, because when you graduate undergraduate in psychology, there are no jobs. You go get a graduate. But I said, if you have them interweave in your program where they can get a industry recognized project and change management certification. Now what you have is you have psychology graduates going into a world where everything is changing, because something as simple as I'm going to move from this email system or this accounting system to a new accounting system is very disruptive for employees because they have to learn how to do new processes. Well, if you hire someone who's trained to do change management, how to communicate that, how to organize that, but they also have a psychology degree so that they understand the psyche of the people. They can learn how to be more empathetic and more patient. You combine that certification and that degree program, and the marketplace will suck you up as fast as you can. These are examples of how to be different. So add any skill certification to a degree program that will make you different. So that's what the market values. What does the market not value? For in-demand jobs, the dirty little secret is the market could care less what your GPA was. In 40 plus years of hiring people, I've never asked a potential employee what their GPA was. I could care absolutely less. The market doesn't care what your GPA was. The market rarely cares about what school you attended. Yes, if you're going to go to work on a Wall Street firm, they're going to want you to be from one handset of schools. But if you want to become a special needs teacher, as long as you have a degree from a college and the certification, they don't care whether you went to A&M Kingsville, the University of Texas at Austin. They probably will prefer that you came from UT-RGV than if you even came from Harvard. The point being is they really don't care about your school. And very few people ever ask you whether it took you 4, 5, or 6 years to get a degree. We simply don't ask those questions. The market doesn't value that. And increasingly, the market does not value 4-year degrees as much as it did in the past. Let me explain why that's happening. Number one, employers are dropping the requirement for a 4-year degree. A 2023 intelligence survey indicated that 53% of hiring managers reported their companies have eliminated the bachelor's degree requirement for many of their roles. Specifically, 70% of those companies eliminated the requirement for entry-level jobs. Another 2025 survey conducted found that 1 in 4 employers say they're going to eliminate the degree requirement by the end of last year. The market is decreasingly looking at 4-year degrees. Number two, at the same point in time, there is an increase in demand and compensation for skilled trades. The skilled trades are experiencing a surge both in demand and compensation, driven by a combination of factors: an aging workforce, increased infrastructure development, and they're beginning to realize that having a skilled trade is not second class to having a 4-year degree. This increase in demand for skilled trades is leading to higher wages and better benefits as employers compete for skilled workers. The National Association of Manufacturers and Deloitte estimated that the country's manufacturing skills gap could lead to 2.1 million unfilled jobs by 2030, costing the economy about $1 trillion. President Trump wants to build a lot more Navy ships. The first thing they ran into is we don't have enough people to build ships at a faster rate than what they're building already, and won't for years. The American Welding Society estimates the shortage of skilled welders today in the United States is 400,000 nationwide. While college can still make sense for many young people, especially at schools that have kept tuition affordable, the idea that everyone should go to college is increasingly being challenged. And this is because the future may be a lot less about analytical skills than fixing and building things, Artificial intelligence can do analysis a lot better than us, but they can't build and they can't fix anything. So keep that in mind. There's also a decrease in the value of a 4-year degree. It used to be that a bachelor's degree guaranteed you certain jobs. Today, an NBC News poll found that 63% of voters believe a 4-year college degree is no longer worth it, particularly when it's paired with a large amount of debt and no specific job skills. You have a degree, you got debt, but you really can't do anything specific. And more the markets, people are going, well, why do I get a college degree and get debt if I can't get a job? You saw some of the statistics earlier. Gen Z college students are also hearing about the story of recent college graduates who did everything right. They got the degree, took the debt, couldn't get jobs, and they're now facing a brutal job market. The unemployment rate for 20 to 24-year-old college grads is now 9.5%. That's almost triple, we'll say 2.5 times the unemployment rate. It's the highest in over a decade. And more than 40% of recent graduates between 20 and 22 and 27, they're underemployed, meaning that they're working in a job that didn't require the degree they graduated from. 40%. It's the inverse of what Gen Z was told. It's no longer the ticket, it's not working out. And there's another reason why this is a problem. There's a decreasing earnings gap between 4-year degrees and skilled trades. You know, everyone said, well, you're going to make more money in the long run having a 4-year degree. Well, they always compare that against a high school graduate. But when you compare it against a skilled trade, the gap is going just like this. So these are the reasons why there is the market, you know, as we look at this and say, what does the market not value? The 4-year degrees, it's not valuing near as much. So let me give you some data on this comparison. Here's the income potential between a 4-year graduate now and a person with skilled trades. Number one, skilled trades like electricians, plumbers, dental hygienists, construction managers can earn salaries that rival or even surpass those of college-educated professionals. Experienced tradesmen, especially in high-demand areas, can command very competitive wages. Another advantage of skilled trades is a faster entry into the workforce. Trade schools are typically much shorter and less expensive, which means you get out of school quicker to start earning real money, and you come out of school with less debt. And we talked about the value of putting money aside for retirement. You know, Leonard asked me a question, well, you know, when I start investing money? I said, well, you can invest money now. So Leonard, I did this for you. If Leonard puts $1,000 into a retirement account, and he's going to contribute no more than $100 a month from now until when he's 70. And depending on the rate of interest he would get, he'll have between, having just done that, $100 a month. That's all he's going to do towards retirement. From now till 70, he'll have roughly $1.8 million. If you get out of school quicker, you can start investing quicker. Plus, you don't have the debt you have to pay off, which delays that even further. We had the conversation for some of you, only one of you heard this. If I were to put $25,000 in at age 30 and you compound interest at 10%, you remember that would turn into $1.1 million by the time of 70. Just $25,000 and you never do anything and touch it, 1.1 million at 70. But had you deferred putting that $25,000 into an account until 35, just 5 years later, and you got the same rate of interest, that 1.1 million drops to 700,000. And if you waited even 5 more years to where you were 40, it will drop all the way down to 436,000. The point being is, the sooner you start investing, the sooner you get the rate of compound interest, the better. And you don't have to put silly amounts of money. I mean, can you find $100 a month to put aside for retirement? Most people probably can. And that's a pretty significant sum of money if you did nothing else than just that. That's why faster entry in the workforce matters. We talked about less debt. Those who go into skilled trades have less debt. Number 4, they have the immediate return on investment. We just talked about that. And also skilled trades open up the opportunity for entrepreneurship, setting up an entrepreneurial exercise. And number 6 is job security in demand. While on average a college degree might lead to somewhat higher earnings, the one thing that is never going to be missing is skilled trades are always going to be in demand. The need for electricians, as an example, is not going to change 10 years from today, 20 years from today, 30 years from today. Next time I change it, I don't think you're going to have any decrease in the amount of plumbers that are needed. And if everyone keeps wanting to move to the state of Texas, there's not going to be any shortage of HVAC technicians needed. These skilled trades are in high demand, and they can drive really good salaries. The next question is how likely will AI affect the marketplace? It has the potential to change the very anatomy of work. In fact, McKinsey notes that current generative AI strategies and other technologies have the potential to automate work activities that absorb 60 to 70% of white-collar work efforts. 60 to 70% of the work that white-collar workers are doing could be taken over by AI. It doesn't necessarily mean their jobs all go away. It merely means that they predict that by 2032, that's not very far away, over half of all jobs will be changed by artificial intelligence. Remember when I talked to you about the need for change management and people who have good psychology understanding? Because every time that AI comes in and changes how everything's going to do, man, you can have a great job if you know how to do change management efficiently, but you understand people. Even now, according to a recent Fortune report, the first step on the corporate ladder is vanishing for many new graduates. For example, AI is threatening to eliminate many software jobs along with high-end professional roles. This is at the exact same time that college graduates aged 22 to 27 with computer science degrees are facing the highest unemployment rates that they've ever seen. Simply put, they're being replaced by AI. So more specifically, what jobs are likely to be eliminated or transformed by artificial intelligence? Okay? As you look up there, I'll give you a list. These are the jobs most likely to be eliminated or transformed by AI. Data entry clerks, bookkeepers, retail cashiers. I don't know if you noticed, more and more of the places, they just self-checkout, right? We don't need cashiers. Okay? Radiologists, lab technicians. Jobs that may not vanish will be transformed are journalists, teachers, doctors, and software developers. I was talking to a really elite software development firm. They do custom software development. And I was asking the developers, how are you using AI? Oh man, we love AI. Well, what do you like about AI? AI allows us to write code faster. Because what they do is we put in all these parameters and it generates code. It's not accurate, but it saves me 80% of my time in writing the code that I need. And what's better, it tests code really well. And the smarter that we train the AI tool, the faster and more accurate it tests, which means I can put a change in, have it tested, and get it back within an hour so I can get back to coding and fixing it. They love it. Now, does it mean their jobs are being eliminated? No. It's increasing their productivity, which means in the future, there will be a need for fewer software developers. But the software developers are going to be the ones who can leverage AI. So as you look there, it doesn't vanish, but it will transform. And then, of course, these jobs are the ones that won't be replaced. AI can't replace a nurse checking on your vitals. It can't replace a teacher in the classroom. These are the roles right here, and the need for empathy is going to go through the roof. So AI will transform the marketplace, but this is different. All right, so given that many jobs will be eliminated or transformed by AI, what certifications can one seek? I encourage you, even as high school students, go out and get micro-credentials in AI. Even if you're not going to want to be a software developer, go get some micro-credentials. Understand what AI can do in the artist space, in the software space, in the audiovisual space. There are credentials everywhere. Start learning these AI and become experienced. Now, parents are going to just kick me for saying what I just said because I don't want my kids going out onto ChatGPT, and I get it. But there's a big difference between going out and onto these chat engines and looking at micro certifications, because you want your children understanding what AI can and can't do and how it will and will not affect each job, particularly the jobs of their interest. Because simply put, that prepares them to be more attractive in the marketplace. All right, next. Now that you have a better understanding of the market, you need to select an optimal path. I didn't say the optimal path, but an optimal path. You're not attempting to hit a bullseye from 20 yards. I'm just happy if you hit the target from 20 yards, okay, when you shoot it with an arrow. You're going to likely have several options to pursue an optimal path, not just a single one. So at the sake of oversimplification, I want to allow 3 separate paths to a new, vibrant career. The first approach is to bypass college and obtain a trade or skill. High school students have a wide variety of choices beyond a bachelor's degree: certificates, apprenticeships, industry certifications. Jeffrey Selingo says that there are 29 million open jobs today in the skilled trades. 11 million of them pay $50,000 or more a year. 4 million pay $75,000 or more a year. And even though people think of these as blue-collar jobs, nearly half of them are actually still in the office doing the work. To help you understand the trades better, it's important that you look at what the highest paying jobs are. According to Indeed, these are the highest paying trade jobs. And this was as of 2025. And then there's another study on Pro Tools. This is more construction specific as of 2024. These are what the salaries are for a millwright and a boiler maker, an elevator, escalator installer. No 4-year degrees. Most of these are obtained by getting 6-month, 12-month certifications. Oftentimes, the employer will pay you to get the certification, so you don't even have to borrow money. And if you target a skilled trade that's in demand, these are what your options are. The second option is what I call the hybrid option. That's to combine trade skills with a college degree. Even if you're college bound for a non-trade career, obtaining a trade school will enable you to earn income while studying, graduate with less debt, and gain real-world experience that boosts your resume. Why not obtain a certification in medicine, construction, cybersecurity, plumbing, or manufacturing, work in the market 1 or 2 years, and then use those skills to fund part-time school, so you don't have to borrow any money, or use those skills to work part-time when you go to college, full-time. I've encouraged a lot of people, go get a welding degree, particularly if you're near, not a welding degree, a welding certification. Because if you're near College Station, they have a bunch of light manufacturing facilities down there. They're always looking for welders. Well, what you can do is go get a year or two experience. And then, because they're always short welders, and they always like to have welders work in the evenings because they want to keep the production lines going, you can be a part-time student and then go be a part-time welder working in the evening hours, afternoons, and on weekends. And it might take you 6 years to graduate, but you graduate with Zipola College. Plus, you're actually going to be more desirable in whatever college degree you get in because you've been working in the marketplace for 6 years or more. You're going to have greater resilience, greater communication skills, greater ability to manage the difficulties of life. But you combine a trade skill like plumbing, construction, and HVAC and hairdressing with a business degree, now you're going to become a killer entrepreneur. It's one thing to go get a cosmetology certification and then go be a cosmetologist for a year or two. It's something else to go to college and then work part-time in cosmetology. Because the last time I checked, a lot of people work from 8 to 5, but they need to get their hair done. And some cosmetologists don't want to work in the evenings, but if you're a college student, I can work 3 evenings a week, knocking out 12 hours as a cosmetologist, and still go to school. And of course, if I graduate with a business degree and I've been running in a cosmetology, I might be able to be really knowledgeable about how to run my own cosmetology firm, practice, or business. What trade skills or certifications could high school students seek before they enter college to help pay for college? Here is a list right here of high-paying, flexible, in-demand skills and certification that high school graduates can pursue before or during college as of 2025. Look at these right here. Up there, certified nursing assistant. It's about 6 weeks to get that. EMT, you can get that while you're in high school. I know several school districts that offer EMT certifications to their high school students, and they have high school students graduating with EMT certifications at 18. And it's actually paid for by the high school. That's a different story. Welding certification, HVAC, the need for automotive technician certifications. I know you might be really good at working on cars, but anything that's been built after about 2023 requires a lot of knowledge of a lot of automated equipment to be able to diagnose what's going on with all these computer systems. And there's a shortage of automotive technicians. These are tech-oriented certifications, and then these are hands-on certifications, forklift operator, commercial driver's license. Now, you can get a CDL, and you don't have to be an over-the-road driver because that's a different above the CDL. But if you look at all of these big distribution facilities that run around where you'll see like 600 semi-trucks, the beds back there, in order to move those around, you have to have a CDL even inside that property. And when do they like those things to be moved around? They like them moved around at night so that they're ready to roll for the drivers, the over-road drivers during the day. You get a CDL as a college student, as a high school student, you can be 18 and you can have a CDL, because I checked that in Texas. Drive school buses, $18 to $20 an hour in Bryan, $20 to $22 an hour in McKinney, as a part-time job. So you'd be going to school and knocking off $20 an hour, helping to pay for school. Or you can go work at one of those big facilities we talked about from 8 o'clock at night till midnight, just moving the trucks around, and you're going to be paid $20 to $25 an hour. These are in-demand certifications. What age does anyone here have any interest in going into real estate? Real estate? A little bit? How old do you have to be in order to, in the state of Texas, to have a real estate license to be able to sell houses? 18. You can take all of the classes and do all the training, and you can pass the test, and then at 18, you can go sell a house. Why? This gets back to that thing I said earlier. What are we not doing in high school? We're not letting our kids explore and grow and learn because we're too focused on silly grades. instead of letting them experience life. Now, some of you kids might want to go, I just don't want to make good grades. Okay, I'm not giving you a pass to say you can't make good grades. What I'm saying is you need to be spending more time not goofing around with your friends, but experimenting, working, getting certifications. That's what you should be doing with your time. All right, so these are very valuable certifications. It should be noted that many community colleges will offer these certifications at a low cost. Others will come free through a workforce program, and some of them are stackable. You can get a CNA, and then once you have a CNA, you can then get a LPN, and you keep on going from there. Because that's one of our daughters is going to finally get one of them. I think she's getting an MN, a master's in, or something. There's MN or whatever it is. But there's like 3 more that she can get beyond that. All right, that's option 2. Option 3, college without debt. The key to this option is not to mortgage your future by taking on loans that will limit your options after graduation. Students with high levels of debt end up taking jobs just to pay the bills, or because they have debt, they limit their flexibility to change jobs. I really want this job, but it pays less than the job I have, and because I have this college debt, I got to stay with this job I really don't like. And it also means that you make salary, not your fit or your passion or interest. You may really, really want to be an AV person. You make big money over here, but it's crummy hours. Or you could go to this other place where you would love to work and you make less money, but man, what a great place to work. Well, I have all this college debt I got to pay off, so I got to go have the crummy job instead of taking the job that's not crummy, okay? So how do you graduate college with no debt? How do you reduce the cost of college? While there is a myriad of answers, I'm going to give you a short list. As stated earlier, obtain certifications in trades that fund college. We discussed this yesterday. Obtain dual credit while in high school. Most colleges accept up to 60 transfer hours from community college, which means you can get up to 50% of your undergraduate eliminated by taking those dual credit. Some high schools, if you're really fortunate, will pay for your dual credit classes and you pay nothing. You may be limited to 15 to 18 hours, but that's an option. Another way to get a college degree without debt: join the military, get accepted into one of the service academies, join the ROTC, live at home. I think I asked this question earlier today, so maybe a repeat. If the average college debt is $25,000 to $40,000, what did you actually borrow? And I use the example of Texas A&M University. To go there is $24,000 a year. How much of that, do you remember, is for tuition fee and books? 14. 10 of the 14 is for room and board. So you could have gone to A&M at $24,000 a year, or you could live at home and go to UTRGV, and UTRGV will actually be closer to about $10,000 a year. And you wouldn't have had to borrow, because most people who are borrowing $25,000, $30,000, $35,000, they're borrowing room and board. They're not borrowing college education. Another example to lower your college debt is be a resident assistant. If you're a resident assistant in a dorm, you get free housing, plus you get paid for every hour that you work. So in essence, room and board is now free, and you're only paying for tuition fee and books. Another one is to don't start post-core classes until you're certain of your degree. That is you may get through the first 60 hours and you're not sure what you want to do, pause, take a year or two off, and when you decide what you want, then you start taking your classes that are in your major, because the 60 will transfer, but it makes no sense to start. And I had a friend of mine who went into industrial engineering and decided later to have to go do economics and had to come back and do a year of work because all of the classes they took in industrial engineering didn't apply to the economics degree. Don't view community college negatively. Most people who go to a 4-year college end up dropping out, and it would have been better just to go to a 2-year college to start with. Attend state universities rather than private universities. Private college tuition is 282% higher than the state colleges. Attend regional universities instead of prestigious universities. As an example, East Texas A&M tuition is 30% lower than Texas A&M College Station tuition is. UT Arlington tuition is 28% lower than UT Austin. Regional colleges are a deal. And I will tell you this, regional colleges, for undergraduate degrees, they're every bit as good as the prestigious big state schools. Now you get a graduate degree, yeah, you might want to go to UT and A&M, but I'm not sure that if I get a teaching certificate from A&M that it's any less valuable than getting a teaching degree from A&M is no more valuable than a teaching degree from UT-RGV. In fact, the people here in the Valley will hire UT-RGV grads much quicker than they'll ever hire a Texas A&M grad, and a lot higher than they'll hire a Harvard grad, because they want someone who lives in the area and is likely to what? Stay in the area. Okay? So where you get your degree is really important because the employers in that area like you. What are some other things? Remember that college location matters more than ever because the employers that are hitting that college up typically like to be the employers in that area. It's hard to get people to go live in Northeast Texas. But the employers who are based near Texarkana, they flood the A&M Texarkana campus because they know that the people who went to A&M Texarkana likely came from East Texas, were willing to go to school in East Texas, and are probably willing to take a job and stay in East Texas. So where you choose to go to school will mean you're going to get more job opportunities from the area, the employers around the area you're at. Because you go to school here in the South Texas, you're going to get a lot of employers who are going to believe that you're going to stay here. You go to West Texas A&M and Canyon, boy, all the employers out of Amarillo are all over you because they're thinking that you're willing to stay up in the Panhandle. So remember, college location matters. And also remember that what one does in college is more important than what one goes to college. I mean, I don't care where you go, but what you do in college is still more important. All right, that's their third option. So having chosen an optimal path, what are the best opportunities in the market to come? You can, since you have this presentation, Nathan, you could print this out and make this as a handout available. I meant to tell you to do that. That was my mistake. Here are the 20 fastest growing occupations with the highest projected percent change of employment between 2024 and 2034. So if you wanted to become a nurse practitioner, the growth rate over the next 10 years is 40% at an average of $129,000 a year. Okay? You want to be an actuary, it's going to grow at 22% at $125,000. You could become a hearing aid specialist. It's going to still grow over the next 10 years at 18%. This is the latest data that I could get on the best opportunities that are here in the market. This next one is a little bit different. This shows the 20 occupations with the highest projected numerical change in employment in the next 10 years. So it's not percentage increase. It shows you that there's going to be a need for registered nurses, 166,000 more registered nurses. Financial managers, 128,000. Construction laborers, 106,000. Medical assistants, 101,000. There's the average one. We're going to need 79,000 more light truck drivers. These are the degrees, skills that are going to be coming. All right, in closing, let me highlight one opportunity, which is information security analysts. The cybersecurity workforce has reached an all-time high with 4.7 million professionals. Yet, today, there is a shortage in the United States of 465,000 information security analysts. And in the world, there's a 3.4 million shortage. So now if you have Pete and Lily and you have your children and they can speak German and they can speak English and they can speak Spanish, and their child wants to be an information security analyst, well, there are 3.4 million jobs across the world. They could probably find one someplace. But that shows you information security analyst is a big deal. This is despite a 33% growth. It's expected that even at the end of this year, there will be 3.5 million unfilled positions in the United States alone. In the world alone. Simply put, if you're interested in cybersecurity, it's really good to go become an analyst. All right, let's move on to our conclusion. We've set forth a strategy, not the best strategy, not the only strategy, but a proven strategy, so that you will know who you are. We highlighted the importance of identifying natural aptitudes and talents. We highlighted that young people have differing levels of career readiness. We highlighted the need to connect student interests and academic courses to the real world. We talked about understanding the market, what the market values, what the market doesn't value, and how AI will affect the market. We talked about selecting an optimal path, trade only, trades to drive a degree, or getting a 4-year degree. But we also then set forth a handful of examples that demonstrated how hands-on experience, certifications, soft skills, and differentiations are desirable in the marketplace. I want one more comment, human flourishing. This comment is important for our society and our culture, and for us as believers, it's critical. Students should choose a career that enables you to have and to live a life of purpose or meaning. To live a life that shares your passions and interests with others. That cultivates positive human relationships. That contributes to the well-being of others. That enables you to serve others and to thrive in all aspects mentally, physically, and socially and spiritually. For the believer, we should be seeking out careers where we can model and share the gospel of Jesus Christ aligned with our passions and interests. If I have the gift of administration, the last thing you need me to do is to become an artist, because God gave me the gifts of administration. If you have the gift of teaching, I don't need you to go do something that doesn't utilize that gift. Our discussion today wants you to choose a career that's not driven by the pursuit of fame, wealth, or power. I want you to choose a career that increases human flourishing. Let me give you an example, several examples. Why should someone become a lawyer? To ensure that justice is meted out to all. Why should you choose to be a doctor or nurse? Not to make a lot of money, but to reduce human suffering. Why would you choose to be a plumber, electrician, or an HVAC technician? That's so that people can live safely and comfortably. I'm pausing. I'm going to give you some other examples. One day, we were in our condo in Dallas. It had a leak, couldn't figure out what was going on. And you had to turn the water off, which meant there was no water going to happen, and so we had to have a plumber come out and check everything out. And he's just in there working away like at 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, something like that. And we just started talking to him, and he just started talking about, well, I just love my job, love being able to talk to people. And conversation proceeds, and he's a Christian, and he's just sitting there and saying, I love to, periodically I get to share the gospel of Jesus Christ, and I'm doing this. And you're sitting there thinking, this is like 7 o'clock. He's got a family at home. But what was he doing? He was there not to make money. He was there to make someone live comfortably. Now, I'm getting ready to step on somebody's toes, and I apologize if I step on them. Someday we can have this conversation. Work-life balance is an idol. It is not biblical, and it is something that we should run away from. Now, don't get me, we can discuss that later. Here is this guy. Let's assume he showed up at 5 o'clock. We're dead in the water until he fixes the problem. And at 5:30, he says, well, I'll see you tomorrow. I got to go. Why? I got to go home for work-life balance. We would say, no, I would never hire that person again. And yet we in the Christian church elevate work-life balance. I want to tell you in the skilled trades, sometimes work-life balance is going to be a challenge. But you know what? If you're in a skilled trade like this plumber, to glorify Jesus Christ, to share the gospel, and to be in a position to help people out, man, what an incredible ministry. All right, what are some other examples of human flourishing? Why should you choose to be a teacher? It's sure not for making money. We know that. It's because you want to educate the young and prepare them for the future. Why should you choose to be a change management expert? To ensure that individuals are prepared, equipped, and supported when change occurs. And why should you want to be a counselor? It's to provide empathy and guidance. Know this, for those that are in high school, your future is ridiculously bright. There's a shortage of trades and will be for decades. You don't have to be on the conveyor belt to college. Time is on your side. You now know what the market does and does not value. You know that there are several paths to career. So what I hope our conversation today is it will challenge you, parents, and challenge you, high school students, to choose a career that will utilize your passions and interests, increase human flourishing, and build long-term financial security with an in-demand skill and no student debt.
On time, I'm thinking if we take a break, then we'll only have a little bit of time for Q&A.
Well, yeah, I mean, this was closer to an hour presentation.
I'm wondering though, if Mark, if you could stay up here.
I will.
Maybe we can just turn right into a shorter Q&A but I know people might need to go to the bathroom and things like that. So I'm thinking maybe for about 15 minutes, Mark gets about 3 or 4 questions, and then afterwards we'll close probably around 4:45, and Mark and Debbie are going to be available to keep answering questions for people. So, do we need to use the microphone for this, for the recording? Yes. Okay, so I can be in charge of that, but if you just raise your hand, we're going to just take 3 or 4 questions, and then we're going to take a break after that. Or, not take a break, then we're going to be done.
We're done.
And we'll see y'all tomorrow. So Ralph's got the first.
Mark, you mentioned aptitude tests. I know most colleges offer those aptitude tests. How much weight should we put on those aptitude tests, or should we just use it in addition to things that we already know about our children?
So I'm going to make this oversimplified. First and foremost, aptitude tests are really helpful for someone who has no idea what they might be interested in. Because for the first time, it takes the universe of possible opportunities and at least moves it into a box that they can do. So I find aptitude tests are really, really good for someone who is absolutely uncertain of what they might be able to do given their giftings. And at least it takes the universe of 200 options down to 20. So that's very helpful for them. Number 2, it's very helpful for someone who has a very definitive passion, which is very laser locked, but they have no idea how that passion feeds into the career market. So it's almost the exact opposite. I know what I really want to do and be, but I don't know what that means. Those aptitude tests are really helpful for those two types of people. For everyone else, you put some weight on it because it's helpful. Sometimes it's more confirming, but other than for those two types, I don't think of it as being the silver bullet to solve all of your problems. For most people, and I've had conversation with a lot of high school students, at 15, 17, let's be honest, the majority of them don't know what they want to be when they grow up. And the aptitude tests help, but they are not directive. They're just kind of giving you some general guidance. So that's why I say I wouldn't put a lot of weight on them, but they can in certain situations be helpful. Does that answer your question?
All right, anyone else have a question that might be helpful for the
Kevin
whole group?
said,
just in curiosity, I noticed when you were showing the stats on a lot of the things, one that did not come up was things like airline pilots, transportation, tourism type careers and jobs. Is there a reason for that?
there is a reason, particularly on the airline pilots, because right now, with the airline pilots, the path to becoming a pilot is densely, almost immediately through the military. And so if one wants to be a pilot, you have to go through the military. And that's not the type of job data that you can catch up through surveys. And so the need for pilots is not growing that fast. And so it doesn't show up as being an in demand, but it's not easy. And there are more people who want to be a pilot than can become a pilot. So there's a surplus of supply, and the demand is not there. What was the other one you mentioned? Tourism industry. It is interesting that I have not thought of that, but I would think that there would be more opportunities with tourism. Debbie and I were discussing it. Why? Who would want to work on a cruise ship? Well, I mean, there's a cruise ship, there are reasons to go on cruise ship, but they have to hire a lot of people, and hotels have to hire a lot of people. So there's demands in that space, but it's interesting, at least on the surveys I showed, not. Hospitality is a good field to go into because there are a lot of jobs out there. They're not super high paying, but if you really are good at hospitality, you have a job from now till forever because there's always a need for that. And you've heard me say this at least once, if not twice. As long as you live in the state of Texas where the net migration is coming in, there's going to be the need for more hospitality, more tourism. So it's interesting you comment on that, but it didn't show up. But I'll look into that. Yeah. Yeah.
Back. Oh.
And it is a great thing to do. And what's fascinating about this, and I'm not going to apply this to McAllen High School. I'm not doing that. But there are a lot of people in the higher education space that create programs to graduate students, but they really don't have a place to go for their students, but they have to justify why they're there. And I know I had a friend of mine who was a college student. He was a pilot, but he was trying to get into the Air Force. He ultimately got into the Air Force, couldn't get into their pilot program. So he's doing cybersecurity for the Air Force. But he walked me through all of these private pilot training and how hard it is to make the leap from private pilot licensing to airlines, because guess what the airlines are flying? They're not flying Cessnas. They're not flying King Airs. They're flying big equipment. Well, who gets all the experience flying big equipment? It's, of course, your Air Force pilots who are flying all of the C-130s and so forth. And so the dominant share of where all the pilots are coming from are the ex-military, because they were trained how to fly these big pieces of equipment. And airlines prefer military. That's just preference.
So I know that, this has been directed towards kind of like high school age. You're starting to think about that next step after graduation. When would you say that at kind of that 13, 14 years old is when you can start trying to channel your children in a direction? Because I just feel like I'm thinking of our kids where it's like sometimes you have interest as a child that then as you get older, you kind of don't. But then some of our kids, I'm like, man, I really see even at a really young age, specific tendencies or things that they're interested in. Like, when do you start really building on that to say, like, yeah, we're going to push you this direction and narrow down what you might do?
So
for
from
your future?
experience and conversations with others, I am very hesitant as a parent to ever push children into any path. Okay? So there's kind of premise number one. Premise number two is go back to the Slingo. If you sense that you have a true sprinter, and we knew from age 12, our oldest daughter was laser locked. So what we did at that point in time is we fed and encouraged her passion. We didn't force it. We didn't limit it, but we fed it. So I'm going to answer the question two ways. Don't push your children, because many won't figure out what they want to be till they're 25 or 28. So you're wasting your time at 13 and 14. But if you see a child who is wanting to experience and say, I want to be an oboe player, well, let's let them be an oboe player. Because I can promise you about 6 months into being an oboe player, they're either going to realize that they don't ever want to play the oboe again, or they're going to get passionate about it. So you want to allow your children to experiment. So experimenting is better than guiding, but when you do have the handful and you're only, out of your three, you're probably going to have one that you can basically say they're laser locked on something, and then you feed the beast, so to speak. Otherwise, just let them experience life, because your goal is to decrease the options, not to force a decision at 14. Because people do change too.
Here's our last question.
Okay. I have a question. I noticed that in the slides, I noticed that one of the jobs that maybe might not be affected, or maybe I read wrong, might be affected or not affected, it's the artist part. They won't be affected. Is there like a understanding? Because I have a daughter who's artistic, and we're hearing like, oh, now because of the AI, that jobs like they will be like wiped out, so there will be no chance for the artists to flourish.
So there is a growing belief that artists will be eliminated by AI. And there is some modicum of truth to that, but here's what happens, is that the artists who are able to use AI tools can create art way beyond what AI can do by itself. Because they're able to speed up their creation by saying, I have this idea, AI generate this for me. Nah, that's not what's right. And so what we're seeing is that the need for creative artists is actually not going to be directly eliminated by AI, but it will be changed by AI, meaning that they will just have to learn how to use it. So with anyone who's artistic, it's no different than you've already been told years ago you needed to let them learn how to use all the Adobe Photoshop tools and creative software package. It's just you need to do the same thing with AI, because ultimately most of us won't trust AI, but we will trust someone who is using AI to create something. So art is not going to be eliminated. And now here's my other opinion, and some people disagree with me. AI is really good at copying what someone else has created. So if I say I want to paint a picture like Monet, well, AI can paint great Monet-like pictures, right? But someday in the future, Piper is going to be an artist, and AI can never create Piper art. because Piper is going to create art that didn't exist ever before. And eventually, when Piper produces all of her art, then AI can start copying Piper art, but they can't create Piper art. And so I believe that AI is going to be limited to what it knows, but we will create, as humans, we will create beyond what is already known, and that AI can then leverage that, but AI won't know about it until we create it. That's my opinion. Because I believe that humankind, for the body in here, I do this anytime I speak, there are a lot of things to be concerned about artificial intelligence, how it's being used, what damage it can create. But I want you just to remember 3 things about artificial intelligence as a believer. Number 1, artificial intelligence is nothing else than part of the creative potential that mankind has to rule and subdue the world. When electricity was created, it created a lot of problems, but we use it to rule and subdue the world. Mankind can use AI as part of the latent potential of creation. Number 2, no matter what happens with AI, humanity will never be replaced in the image of God. AI cannot replace mankind. Only mankind is in the image of God. And number 3, no matter what bad things AI may create, maybe it'll even drive us towards the second coming. Praise God, Jesus Christ comes sooner. Here's the deal. It will not affect God's redemptive plan for mankind. So we don't need to fear AI. We need to recognize that the potential is there and use it wisely, and then push for legislation to make sure that we punish criminally and civilly the abuses of AI. So it's what we've done with the internet. It's what we've done with the phone. And yes, AI is scarier than all of them put together. But the fact is, I believe in mankind and the image of God being able to run. So I just don't get scared about AI. But that's me.
Encouraging. Well, we're going to close our time now. I'd like to close in prayer. Mark, thank you so much for teaching. This was very, very helpful. Mark is going to be preaching tomorrow morning, so we get to see Mark and Debbie tomorrow at church. So let me pray for us, and then we'll be dismissed. God, we want to take this wisdom and knowledge that we've acquired over this weekend, and we want to use it well to your glory, to be faithful to the calling to which you've called us. Help us to not just bury this talent, but help us to invest this wisdom well, that it would produce fruitfulness in our lives. We pray for our church, that we would be wise in the area of finances and wise in the ways that we raise up the next generation. God, that we would help build civilization in a way that follows the values of the kingdom of God, in a way where we lead the charge in showing what it looks like to flourish and thrive in this world. We pray for our community, God, that we would grow and expand, and Lord, that our church would help others around us to wisely engage with this world, wisely engage with finances, wisely engage with future careers. And God, we thank you for the ways that maybe some pitfalls will be avoided by different families as we learn what seems to be working in our world today with education, what seems to not be working, and that we would continue to move in the right direction, that we would be freed up to do what you've called us to do. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Well, thank you guys.